In this episode, we're going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to install these felt air deflectors. So let me show you how I do it. Now the first issue that I need to deal with are these flanges that the felt strip mount to. Now nearly all four of these are twisted or bent in some way, and I need to straighten them out so that these pieces of felt actually fit flush to them. The other thing I have to do is a lot of the staples, or many of the staples, or most of the staples are still here. I think the first thing that I'm going to do is try and pull all the staples. And I'll show you a couple of those, then I'll do the rest of them off camera. Now I have four tools that I think I'm going to use trying to pull those staples. The first is a couple of small screwdrivers, a jackknife, and then I'm also going to, if I need to, use these vice grips. Now the jackknife seems to work pretty good getting those staples started. It's thin enough that I can get underneath the staple. And then the biggest screwdriver helps bend them even a little bit more. So I went and got a pair of needle nose pliers, and those are working a lot better getting those staple legs straightened out. Alright, so you get the idea. Let me get the rest of them off, and I'll come back and show you how I straighten out those flanges. Alright, I just got two more to get out. It wasn't all that hard doing it, but it probably took me a good 10 minutes to get them all. Ended up having to use the needle nose to straighten these legs out. And some of these staples, they're so rusty that they're actually breaking when I bend them. That's the last two. Now the other thing that I have to do is straighten these flanges out, and some of them are bent really pretty severely, and this is one here. I'm going to try and do this using the vice grips, but I want to be careful because I don't want to mar up the paint too much. And at the end of the day, I don't know that it has to be all that perfect, but certainly straight enough that those felt deflectors will fit into the radiator properly. Alright, that's that. I'm going to go back and use a hammer and hardwood dowel or hardwood block in order to kind of finish those up a little bit. And this one actually changes directions. It's bent in, and then it changes directions, and it bends over the other way. It's kind of interesting. So the other thing I want to do is come up against this hard maple block and see if I can't make that at least as straight as possible. That looks really good. All right, so same as before, I'm going to do the rest of this off camera and then I'll bring you back. So the last thing I'm doing is using sort of a mid-size C-clamp that has a nice pivoting head on it. And I'm using it a little bit like a vise, and I'm able to put a little pressure on these and then bend them in a way that both straightens out the kinks and then also allows me to sort of manipulate this a little bit without putting a lot of huge force or stresses on it, and it works really pretty well. I like that. Let me take you around the edge of this and show you those flanges and how straight I was able to get them. The next thing I've got to do is mount these felts, and the first thing I got to do is figure out how they go on. And there's 3 of them. There's this top one, and then there's these 2 that go down the side. And frankly, at this moment, I'm not entirely sure which way they go, so I need to figure that out. All right, so I couldn't seem to find a way through this. The felt was really thick. The shapes that they had cut from the factory just didn't seem to work anywhere in this Jeep. So I'm not sure if this felt is really original to a CJ. It said on the packet MB. Usually the MBs and the CJs are very, very close, especially those early CJs. So I had to modify this simply to get this thing to fit the way I'd like it to fit. So I literally trimmed the ends so that they would fit into the contours and recesses of the grill. The other issue I had was that the felt was really thick, so I couldn't seem to get the staples to go through the felt, through the sheet metal, and then have enough to bend over. So what I did is I took it down to my shop and I made a clamp system where I literally ran these through my bandsaw and then split them in half. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you a couple of these staples going through. Using a sewing needle, a pretty stiff sewing needle, poked a hole all the way through the felt. You got to kind of hold it in place and don't get stabbed. And that way that hole gets created in the felt. And then just using the staples, you can find your way back through. And once you're through, then I'm just using a set of needle nose pliers that have a nice radius on the tip and using those to start bending that over. I'm sure when the factory originally did this, they had some kind of a method that was a lot more set up to do this without going through all of this. I'm sure it just punched all the holes with a giant staple gun. Alright, then when I got it so it looks reasonably well bent, then I'll take the vice grips and do a final crimp on it. Alright, so I have 16 more of these to do, and I'm not going to make you sit through all of those. So let me get them done, and then I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. We're done. This was neither fun nor was it easy. Trying to find all those little holes to get those staples in, it was just time consuming. Let me show you what it looks like up close. And then the next job that we're going to do is put this grill back on the Jeep.